Good morning. I will now call to order the September 30, 2021 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Gary Schmidt, would you please take the roll?
Yes, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today, County Counsel Stephen Madcor, clerks to the board, Mary Bork and Christina Twilliger. Commissioner Fisher is attending a regional economic development conference this morning and will not be here. With that, roll call. Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. I will now lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. Today we have 2 public hearing items, and we will take public input for those items as listed on the agenda. General public comment will be taken at the usual time. As always, the public is welcome to sign up to testify. Registration for public comment will close at 5 minutes past 10. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public that we will be following Robert's Rules of Order during this business meeting. We welcome your polite opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Gary, can you introduce the first item, please?
Yes, Chair Smith. First, we have a wildfire update. Jamie Poole, a disaster management manager from Disaster Management, will present. Jamie is on Zoom. As soon as we'll load her in here. Okay, well, all right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jamie, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So I am providing an update for the Bull Complex fire. It is currently at 24,894 acres, which is an increase of 57 acres since last Thursday. Containment is still at 20%, which is the same as last Thursday. Currently, there are 350 personnel on the fire, which is a decrease of 128 individuals since last Thursday. The decrease in personnel reflects the decreased staff needed to meet the incident objectives. Management of the incident has been turned over from a national incident management team to a local incident management team. The fire behavior has been minimal over the last week, with only smoldering and creeping occurring. Fire activity is anticipated to remain minimal with the forecasted weather. Current work on the fire includes continued suppression work, strengthening control lines, patrolling for hot spots, and getting rid of excess vegetation from established control lines. And there are currently no evacuation orders in effect. Are there any questions?
Do we have any questions for the presenter on this issue? No. Seeing none, thanks a lot. That was quite informative.
Thank you, Jamie, very much. Next is COVID-19 updates. Philip Mason Joyner, Public Health Director, will present. He is also on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. Glad to be here this morning to provide you with your COVID-19 weekly update. Thank you, Christina, it looks like that's the board report. Christina, I'm hoping you can show the slideshow that I sent the PowerPoint slides to the clerk of the board.
Yeah, we can wait for that. Thanks, Philip, for pointing that. We'll just wait for her to bring it up.
Great, thank you so much. I can see that. If you go to the first slide, as usual, the weekly update on our case counts and individuals who have died from COVID-19. So since the last time I presented, Clackamas County has seen 936 cases and 6 deaths, sadly, compared to Multnomah County that has had close to 1,300 cases and 3 deaths, and Washington County, 992 and 4 deaths. Next slide, please. Our case count did the past week go up a little bit, which is disappointing, but we really are hoping that the state's forecasts and projections around what our case trends will look like over time will continue to go downward. So while this week we had a little bump, my hope is that it will be a jagged decline over time with our case counts from week to week. Next slide, please. Chair Smith asked for information last week about long-term care facilities and are we seeing more outbreaks within these facilities. Here is outbreaks specifically for these facilities in Clackamas County since August of last year. And this lines up quite closely to what we see with the community case rate overall. So my general takeaway from this data is that as case rates increase in the communities, they do as well within these high-risk settings for our vulnerable community members and the staff that are working to serve them in these locations across the county. Next slide, please. I know that there's a lot of interest in terms of pediatric case counts, certainly with the return to in-person activities in school. We are seeing an increase in youth who are testing positive for COVID-19. While this says pediatric, the state defines that as ages 0 to 18. So this really is our young people. The good news is that we aren't seeing significant severe illness or hospitalization within this population at this time. The next slide is our hospitalization data. There's 822 COVID positive patients in Oregon hospitals across the state. This has sharply declined, which is great to see. In terms of adult ICU beds, there's 22 ICU beds currently available in the region out of 340 total beds. And for pediatric, I just looked up the data this morning. It looks like around a half dozen or so youth that are hospitalized. So it still remains very low. It's not an area of concern at this point. We will certainly update the board if that changes. Next slide, please. Vaccinations, so we are close to 270,000 Clackamas County residents that have received at least 1 dose. In terms of the metric of adults 18 and older who have received their first dose, we're hovering still around 73.3%. So every week we're chipping away at this. Another 4,300 individuals were vaccinated in the past week. So the increase request to be vaccinated continues to occur. The state of Oregon right now is at 75% on that metric. So we're just a little bit behind the state average. Next slide, please. There's a lot of interest and desire for information about how the different COVID-19 vaccines work. There are 3 vaccines available. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is a viral vector vaccine, and then 2 different mRNA vaccines, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine. All 3 of these vaccines ultimately have the same result. They teach your body how to make copies of the spike protein so that it looks like the virus, but it is not dangerous and it does not result in disease. If you are exposed later on after you get vaccinated if you're exposed to the real virus, your body recognizes it, it knows how to manage that within you, and it is able to fight it off. So in terms of how they actually work and do that, that's described here on the slides between the mRNA vaccines and the viral vector vaccines. The good news is that the vaccines are showing to be really safe, really effective at preventing hospitalization, severe illness, and death. They build off of over 20 years of research and development. At this point, over 3 billion people across the globe have been vaccinated so far, and we're seeing that side effects are incredibly rare. The other big news, if you go to the next slide, please, is boosters. Boosters are now approved for, one more back, thank you. Boosters are are now approved for the Pfizer vaccine only at this point for specific groups that are reflected here, really for individuals that are at higher risk of severe illness who their immunity may wane over time. So boosters are 6 months after your second dose that you received the vaccine. There is confusion about this in the community, and we continue to message it, the difference between boosters and your third dose. Third dose is for individuals who are immunocompromised, a very small population in our county, and that's to be given 20 days after your second dose. So a little bit of difference there. Clackamas County Public Health, we will begin to offer boosters for the Pfizer vaccine at our clinics starting next week, as early as Monday. They're by appointment only. If you go to our next and final slide, Christina, we encourage folks to head on over to our webpage, clackamas.us/coronavirus/vaccine. You can also email us at covidvaccine@clackamas.us or call our call center Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 at 503-655-8224. We continue to offer first and second doses, and we will also have the Pfizer appointments available for those needing boosters if you've had 6 months or more has passed since you received your second dose. So that's what I have prepared for the board this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Philip. Do we have any questions or comments for the presenter on this topic?
I do have one, Chair.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, thank you. Philip, I know you don't have the answer today, but I would love maybe next week to come back with that, knowing that there's no vaccine available for children under 5 to 11 years old, and I know that's something that Pfizer is going to be coming out, or FDA is going to be looking at here soon. But my question with the vaccination rate, what part of the 5 to 11-year-olds make up our population as far as our percentages? So what I'm really going to get at is that if they become eligible and if the vaccine's approved by the FDA and the 5 to 11-year-olds make up a certain, whatever that number is, you can find out of the population, that will obviously increase our vaccination rate in Oregon and in Clackamas County significantly. And if 75% of the population so far has sought the vaccination, at least one dose, and 75% of the 5 to 11-year-olds get it as well, I'm just kind of curious how that bumps our number up. How far? Is it 85%, hypothetically? But that's just something, maybe if you can find that out or whatever you can, I'd appreciate it for next week.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Paul.
Savas. Yes, we have that information available. I can assure it's in the board report and in the slides next week.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Any other comments? Thank you, Philip. Gary, what's next?
Thank you, Chair Smith. Next is a presentation regarding hunger in our community and announcing the results of the 2021 Health, Housing, and Human Services Department Food Drive. Rod Cook, the Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services, will present. Go ahead, Rod.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. I'm here today to give you a brief piece on our food drive and hunger in Clackamas County. Hunger is a serious problem in Oregon. In an average month, an estimated 265,000 people, over 82,000 of them children, are receiving food from a food pantry. Food provided by the Oregon Food Bank is extremely important for people in need in Clackamas County. Donations are what keeps places like Clackamas Service Center on Southeast 82nd Avenue, Sandy Community Action Center, Estacada Area Food Bank, and Colton Helping Hands running and able to feed the hungry. Additionally, the Oregon Food Bank works to eliminate the root causes of hunger through other avenues, including garden education, taught to more than 1,000 low-income adults, including those from immigrant and refugee populations, successful passage of the Student Success Act, which doubled the number of schools that can opt into providing free breakfast and lunch for students, partnering with health professionals to screen 1.6 million people annually at clinical visits for hunger, participation from over 1,600 adults and children in nutrition education to learn how to prepare nutritious food with limited resources, quadrupling the number of school pantries to 40, resulting in more than 72,000 households provided produce and staples, opening 14 new free food markets in the last year, expanding the reach to rural areas within Clackamas County. Each year, Clackamas County Health, Housing, and Human Services hosts a food drive to help support the Oregon Food Bank, which supports many organizations in Clackamas County that rely on donations. Since our first food drive in 2009, we've collected the equivalent of 406,311 pounds of food. This year, we collected $6,844, the equivalent of 27,376 pounds of food for the Oregon Food Bank. Last year, due to the COVID and the restrictions on large group gatherings, we hosted a virtual fundraiser. This year, we decided to continue the virtual fundraiser, largely led by Marco Inciso, who's in the audience today. He's our champion. You'll see him going through the halls and really rallying people up and getting them promoting this event. We had two main fundraising activities this year, the basket raffle and the bake sale, which was led and run by Gene Weber. First, a sincere thank you to all those who donated to support this great cause. Thank you to the A-Team for all your support. Thank you to the Tamale Boy and Cafe de Crepe for selling their delicious food on campus and donating 10% of their earnings. And thank you to the following groups for creating and donating the amazing raffle baskets, and I'll be quick. Business and Community Services, Libraries in Clackamas County, Behavioral Health and the Sunshine Committee, Behavioral Health Division Admin Team, Behavioral Health Division Clackamas County Mental Health Clinic, Behavioral Health Division Staff Team, Community Development, Children, Family, and Community Connections, Finance Team, Accounts Receivable and Friends, Gladstone and Oak Grove Libraries, Health Centers, Human Resources, North Clackamas Parks and Recreation Department, Oregon Food Bank, Public Health, the Timbers, the Blazers, Technology Services, Water Environment Services, Women, Infants, and Children's, which is WIC. And I want to give a shout out to the EMT team because at the last moment we weren't reaching our goal, and we did a pledge or a challenge, and most of them gave funds at that moment, so we want to thank them. So in closing, on behalf of H3S, I want to thank all the staff who participated, along with the coordinators in each of the divisions who helped to make the food drive a success. We know that in difficult times, it is important for communities to come together to help each other. The H3S food drive is a great example of this, and we look forward to coming together again next year. And thank you for hearing us this morning.
Thank you for that very inspiring presentation, Rod. Yes. Gary, do we have any other people talking about that today?
Marco or
that's it.
Mary, were you going to speak on this item? You're welcome to if you'd like. Marco, would you like to? Spur of the moment, Marco? You want to? Come on, Marco. Please, Marco,
Well, I
please.
just want to thank Mary and Marco for all the work you did. I'm very inspired. Thank you for all the employees in the county who were able to make this a big success and your outreach to other areas to make it happen. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just want to give a kind of round of applause. Thanks, everyone, for what they've done.
Thank you very much, Rod, for
Yeah,
coming.
and as always, thank you, commissioners, because without you, we wouldn't be able to move forward on these type of things. So thank you so much
bet.
for your support.
You bet. That's one of the fun things we were able to do, right? Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next, we start our public hearings. The first public hearing is approval of a board order for the withdrawal of county road status of McIntyre Road. Mike Bays from Transportation and Development will present. Go ahead, please, Mike.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. My name is Michael Bays. I represent the county's Department of Transportation and Development. Today we have before you a request to withdraw the county road status of a portion of McIntyre Road, County Road number 1359. This action was initiated at the board's executive session dated July 28, 2020. McIntyre Road was established on June 20th, 1928, being 5,790 feet long with a width of 40 feet. It is located northerly off of Barlow Trail Road near Brightwood. There are no residents past the end of the paved portion of the road, and due to the roughness of the terrain over which the road crosses, including several streams, the easterly 3,051 feet of the road is of little use to the traveling public. The proposed withdrawal will have no effect on the land abutting this area. Withdrawal of county road status as set forth in ORS 368.026 must be accomplished through public notification and a hearing process. After the withdrawal of the county road status, the easterly portion of the right-of-way will be continued to remain open as a non-maintained local access road. The Department of Transportation and Development has established an end of county maintenance mile point near the present end of the current residential use. As established in ROS 368.401 to 368.426, notice of the intent to withdraw county road status has been sent by certified mail to all adjoining property owners and has been posted in at least 3 public places near McIntyre Road, and has been published in a newspaper of local circulation once at least 20 days and once within 10 days of the of the date of this proceeding. The board has the discretion to determine that it is necessary to change the status of a county road, local access road, public road, or trail. To withdraw the status of such right-of-way, the board shall designate the new status as a local access road, public road, or trail, and shall use the procedure set forth in ORS 368.026 for withdrawal of county right-of-way status. In determining whether to enter an order changing the status of right-of-way under ORS 368.026, the board shall consider several items, or criteria, First being the county cost of maintenance under existing status, given public benefit of such maintenance. Currently, the county expends little to no county fund dollars on the portion of McIntyre Road identified in the withdrawal of county road status. Improving the subject portion of McIntyre Road to a county road standard would be exponentially more than the public benefit received. Second consideration is existing or reasonable future use of property or bodies of waters being accessed by the subject road. The county is only withdrawing the county road status of the right-of-way, retaining a lesser status of a local access road. No access to public lands or recreational areas will be diminished or removed by this action. Third consideration, is there an impact to public facilities, for example, a public water supply or power lines being served by the subject road? In this case, no access to public facilities will be diminished or removed by this change of status. And the fourth consideration is the existence of a long history of inappropriate use of right-of-way, for example, dumping of refuse or hazardous materials, or trespass onto or damaging adjoining property. In this case, there is a history of inappropriate use of McIntyre Road right-of-way. This inappropriate use included the vandalism of culverts and the destruction of sensitive habitat by off-road vehicle use. Staff did receive one email with comments. The emailer shared concerns about inappropriate use of the right-of-way and their desire to protect the several stream crossings in the right-of-way. And they would hope the county would find a way to resolve those issues. In general, they support some action at this time. All things considered, it is the staff's assessment to support the withdrawal of county road status for a portion of McIntyre Road and designate that portion as a non-maintained local access road. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to reply.
Yeah, Mike, I do. We're basically abandoning a portion of this road that you say is not accessible because of streams. What I'm concerned about is the road blocked off so people cannot take their vehicles and therefore get stuck or abandoned or their safety is in danger. What is the county going to do about that?
So at this point, the road is not open. I've been up there, I've assessed it. There's portions of it where it is difficult to walk.
You say it's not open, but is there a barrier to keep people? See,
There is not a.
see, that's what I'm concerned
this point.
about. You say it's not open, but I have seen instances where people will go out joyriding or playing or whatever and take their trucks over areas like this. It happens in our county
Yes.
quite a bit. So, before we vote on this, I do believe it's the county's responsibility to install barriers to keep that from happening. Do you plan on doing that?
We do have that ability, yes.
You do have that ability. And what would those barriers look like?
We would have to put up a gate.
A what?
A gate,
A gate.
yes.
What about those cement barriers that can't be broken down and the chain can't be cut or knocked over.
A Jersey barrier.
Huh?
Like a Jersey barrier.
I don't know
think
what
they're
that's
called,
called.
yes. Like you see along the highway.
Yes, yes, because I don't think a gate's going to do it.
We could
But
adjust.
have your staff considered that?
We could
It's
adjust.
one thing for us to abandon this road, and, I see no reason why we shouldn't. It's another issue to protect people from engaging in activities that in the end could be harmful and cause us a lot of consternation to send somebody out to rescue them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
If it would please the board, we could adjust the board order that has been submitted and include that language and submit it at a later time.
Stephen, is it possible that we can include that language now?
Commissioners, I would recommend you proceed with the language as drafted, because the first step is to get this off a county road status where it really never should have been in the first instance. And I also understand that there currently is some type of obstruction already up there installed by the Bureau of Land Management, some type of rocks and whatnot. We can always revisit, if you want to put a gate up there, there's a separate process that the county has for gating public access to local access roads and to county roads. So I'd recommend this first step, have staff revisit the installing gates and other obstructions.
Okay, on this board order today, would be our final action taken on the withdrawal of McIntyre Road from this board?
From county road status, that is what you're doing right now. It's still going to be a local access road. Like Mike was saying, there's a trail is another alternative that they would have.
And the reason we didn't go with the trail and that we went with the local access road is that there is a private property beyond the end of our current maintenance that if they wanted to develop it.
So the cement barriers would not be appropriate, since whoever owns that would need to drive back beyond this road? Is
At
that
this
what you're-
time, no one is using that road for access.
Yes, but you say there's private property. We can't keep people from not accessing their private property.
That's why I'm saying you would want to revisit the gate issue
I think we
separately.
need to revisit this issue. I mean, because you say it's not passable, and there's creeks, and it's somewhat dangerous. That's a big issue with me. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I think portions of it are just like you described and staff described. And I think the public notice and the process and what was noticed we're acting on. So if we were to change it significantly, then I think we got to start over from scratch. So
Well,
what I'm saying, Chair, is I'm willing to move forward today as is, but if we want to look at what other options are to do in the future with the road, whether it's a gate or whatnot, I think the neighbors or anyone using this road or relies upon this road would want to be able to know that we're taking a different course or what those options are or how they would impact them. So I'm okay with taking it out of off the county books, which is really what we're doing. We're not going to impede anyone's access unless we put up Jersey barriers, but that was not what was noticed. So
No,
I'd be
I
afraid
know
of-
that, but I think maybe there's a broader issue that hadn't been discussed or considered by this board. So there is one property owner on this road, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's BLM property also.
What?
There's BLM property also.
Okay, and is this road the only access to the private property? We don't know that.
Practically, I mean,
That's-
the private property owner does have access, legal access, I believe, off of Barlow Trail, but it's very, very steep and would be impractical for them, yeah.
Well, see, we can't make that judgment for them because they assume they own the property, this is their access. Now, have all the property owners in the area been notified that
Yes,
this
by
action?
certified mail as required,
There's
yes.
been no complaints?
No.
Okay, so if I'm okay moving forward on this today, if you can come back to me, and Gary arranged this, and I want to know what action, I want pictures of notice that we can't let the general public go through there because, as you said, it's a dangerous condition. But there's a property owner back there, and there's BLM back there, and we can't shut them out as well. So I think there's a balance that needs to be reached on this. I will now open the public hearing on this and ask if there's anyone who would like to speak on this issue. I don't see anybody in the room. Mary, do we have anybody online?
Chair, there is no one registered to vote on this item.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing on this, and I will call for a motion.
I move we approve the board order for the withdrawal of county road status of McIntyre Road.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Scholl for the withdrawal of McIntyre Road, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion on this? I see none. Mary, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Gary, what's next?
Great, thank
4-0, please.
4-0. Did I say 5?
Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Gary, what's next?
you, Mike. Next, public hearing is approval of a Clackamas County supplemental budget resolution for fiscal year 2021-2022. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will present. Go ahead, please, Sandra.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager. Oregon budget law, found in ORS 294, requires a supplemental resolution before a fund or department exceeds its spending limits. Before you today is a supplemental budget request for 8 funds totaling $8.5 million. I want to note that this report is $588,000 more than the $7.9 published in the newspaper due to a change identified last week. So the report you have before you this morning is a revised report. This resolution also requests delegation authority for board-approved awards of American Rescue Plan Act dollars. The resolution delegates authority to the county administrator or finance director to shift the ARPA appropriation based on the board's funding awards. There will be no change in the overall ARPA amount of funding available. This just simply allows the departments to respond quickly when the board awards and to be able to start spending. Beyond the changes, the remaining supplemental requests are the results of additional funding and the need to increase spending authority. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Sandra. I will now open the public hearing and ask if anyone wants to speak on this item. I see no one in the room. Mary, do we see anybody online?
Chair, no one's registered on Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much. I will now close the public hearing. Any commissioners would like to make a comment on this? I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the supplemental budget resolution for fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
Second.
The motion has been made by Commissioner Scholl to approve the supplemental budget, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mary, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Gary, what's up next?
Thanks, Sandra. Next is the consent agenda. I'll ask Mary to please read the consent agenda.
Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, a request for approval to apply for the 2021 grant application with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Clackamas County Continuum of Care Program annual application for funding is $3,791,435, including a possible $4,881 and $621 of bonus funding available from HUD. No county general funds are involved. Number 2, approval of local subrecipient grant agreement with Clackamas Women's Services to provide evidence-based parenting education classes. Maximum value is $20,166 through Oregon Community Foundation. No county general funds are involved. Number 3, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with LifeWorks NW to provide evidence-based parenting education classes. Maximum value is $8,850 through Oregon Community Foundation. No county general funds are involved. Number 4, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with Northwest Family Services to provide evidence-based parenting education classes. Maximum value is $48,661 through Oregon State University and Oregon Community Foundation. No county general funds are involved. Number 5, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with Todos Juntos to provide evidence-based parenting education classes. Maximum value is $46,087 through Oregon State University. No county general funds are involved. Number 6, approval of application for federal lands assessment program funds for continuing operations of the Mount Hood Express in the amount of $838,500 from Western Federal Lands. No county general funds are involved. Number 7, approval to execute Amendment 1 to the short-term revenue sharing agreement between Clackamas County and Metro Regional Government to extend the terms to ensure Clackamas County continues to receive revenues collected from Measure 26-210 until the IGA is fully executed. B, Transportation Development, number 1, resolution approving Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue's Fire Code Ordinance 2021-21. There is not financial impact. Under C, Resolution Services, number 1, approval to accept recipient of fiscal year 2021-23 fund distributions from the Oregon Judicial Department for Family Law, Mediation, and Conciliation Funds. Total contract value is $1,056,341. Funded through the Oregon Judicial Department. No county general funds are involved. Under D, Human Resources, number 1, approval of a contract between Voya Retirement Insurance and Annuity Company and Clackamas County for the Housing Authority of Clackamas County for record-keeping services for deferred compensation for 5.7B retirement plans. All contract fees come from participant contributions. There are no fees directly paid by the county. And that's it, Chair. I believe so, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, that's a lot of reading. Thank you very much for that. This is the first time that you have performed in this function as our new clerk to the board, and thank you. We're glad to have you. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Schrader has moved for approval of consent agenda. Commissioner Savas second that motion. Any further discussion? Mary, would you please call the poll? Hello, you did not hear, my microphone is off. Should I say that all again?
You're okay, Chair.
I'm okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mary, please call the poll.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board. Gary.
Next is the consent agenda for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Mary, would you please read the consent agenda?
Under 5A, approval of ground lease agreement of trolley trail easement between North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and Cranic Auto Group Incorporated. Lease revenue is $13,032 with an annual increase of 3%. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you. Does any commissioner wish to remove an item from this consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved to approve the North Clackamas Parks and Rec consent agenda. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that. Any further discussion on this item? Mary, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. I will now adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Commission and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. We will now move on to the public portion, the public comment portion of this hearing. And this will be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading them at this business meeting due to time constraints. I will now open the meeting for public testimony, and I will take the person who is in our hearing room first. We have one. Elvis Clark, please come forward. State your name, your area of residence, and sir, you have 3 minutes.
Hello there, I'm Elvis Clark. I live in Milwaukee, Oregon here. And I thank Chair Smith and Commissioner Schill for supporting last Thursday's resolution asking for more flexibility around the governor's vaccine mandate. Chair Smith and Commissioner Schill, you are both on the side of personal freedom and on the side that recognizes our true experts in our communities. Our true experts are those who show up in person and in real time to save lives during emergencies. Firefighters, nurses, doctors, police. Many of these same folks routinely devote their off hours volunteering in their communities. These are real experts that we depend on most directly. Those authorities higher up in the chain of government have their role, but they should not have carte blanche power over the lives and livelihoods of our community experts. So once again, I thank Chair Smith and Commissioner Schill. Thank you.
Thank you. I will, Mary, do we have anybody on Zoom today?
Yes, Chair. Yes, we have 5 different people registered on Zoom to participate in today's hearing.
Go ahead.
So, the first one we have is Christine Kennedy. Are we ready, Christina? First up, we have Christine Kennedy. Christine, please unmute yourself, state your name, unmute yourself, state your name, area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
So my name is Christine Kennedy, and I live in Lake Oswego. And actually, I wasn't planning on speaking this morning, but thank you for recognizing me. And so anyway, I would, you know what I think, just keep up the good work on the vaccinations. So thank you for all the work the county is doing, and have a great day.
Thank you. Up next, Mary.
We have Chris Waller. Chris, please unmute yourself, state your name, area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Chris Waller, Jennings Lodge. Today, I would like to speak briefly about a positive effort this board can make to foster inclusion in our community. Yesterday, we learned that 180 refugees from Afghanistan will be arriving in Oregon soon, and most of them will be settling in the metro area. I would like to see Clackamas County join Multnomah County, Portland, and Beaverton in passing a formal resolution stating that these refugees are welcome here in our communities. I emailed you all copies of these resolutions yesterday. I am sure that as a body, you can support publicly affirming that the people who gave so much to help citizens of the United States and the families of these people deserve safe homes in our county. As the Beaverton resolution stated, Be it resolved by the City Council of Beaverton, Oregon, Section 1, there is a home in Beaverton for refugees of the war in Afghanistan. Section 2, the City of Beaverton stands ready to support the resettlement of Afghan refugees traveling with a special immigrant visa and to coordinate that support with county, state, and federal government departments and agencies in accordance with established best practices for emergency resettlements. I hope that you can draft and support such a resolution here. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's up next, Mary?
Chair, we have Angela Nylen. Angela, please unmute yourself, state your name and your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I had quite a few questions from Zoom to allow me to unmute. Sorry. So good morning, commissioners. From my discussions with the board's office since last Thursday, I want to publicly compliment Kimberly and Janice for their friendly, helpful, and informative interactions. They were wonderful. There was one other person who said, if they want to talk to you, they will call you back, which wasn't what I got from Kimberly and Janice, and they are just wonderful and really need to be recognized. I'm disappointed Ms. Fisher isn't here, so I will assure myself that she is going to listen to this meeting, because my plan is to repeat my initial comment from last week, since everyone was not seated to actively listen when I started my comments. Comment of 87% of Clackamas County residents that identified as healthcare workers are vaccinated is not a valid statistic for a workforce discussion within Clackamas County. And the reason I say this is that's the county of residence and not the county of employment. I've sensed research additionally and found there are 8 counties bordering Clackamas that should need to be considered when we're looking at how our workforce is going to be in the future, when that resolution was discussed. The counties, I didn't go into Washington, but the county percentages of healthcare workers from Tableau at OHA listed them as from 67% to 86% of those that identified as healthcare workers. So, I really think that should be considered. Ms. Smith, I'm hoping you can answer a question since Ms. Fisher is not here. She stated last week that she is personally working with representatives and the governor on issues relating to, it wouldn't be a resolution, it'd be whatever she's working on. My question is that a officially assigned duty, or is that something she's taking on personally as a personal citizen or as a commissioner? Because I'd really like to know who the representatives are we're working with, and where do I find updates from this information? I'm not seeing any meetings or anything that I can attend or get notes from, so that would really help. If the resolution isn't discussed, and it could be out, during the commissioner comments, so I don't know, if I'm speaking about something that's going to be talked about, where are we at with the state of emergency? Other counties have discussed the state of emergency for them and created resolutions on that to get to the governor to get to those state dollars. So that would be really good information to have.
Thank you, Angela, very much. Gary, I'm going to rely on you because I'm really not sure what she is asking of Commissioner Fisher or myself.
I'm not entirely tracking either. I think if the request was, Commissioner Fisher last week did comment on our county's Public Health Advisory Committee as far as the resolution. We do have, that's an advisory board to the county. It is on our county advisory board website, and there's meeting times and dates listed. If that's what she's referring to, that is online. If that's not what she's referring to, I'm sorry, I'm not tracking.
So I'm going to have staff follow up with a phone call for her, and let's clarify her questions, because I'm uncertain. She touched on different different areas today. So I know it's hard in 3 minutes, Angela. We'll have somebody follow up from the office and get your questions so we can answer them properly. Thank you. Mary, who's next?
Chair, we have Connie Lee. Connie, please unmute yourself, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Connie Lee, Lake Oswego. Commissioners, please bear with me. This is not meant to be a partisan speech. It is about COVID. This week, the New York Times wrote that in counties where Donald Trump received at least 70% of the vote, the virus has killed about 47 out of every 100,000 people since the end of June, according to Charles Gaba, a healthcare analyst. In counties where Trump won less than 32% of the vote, the number is about 10 out of 100,000. This data implies that Republicans are dying from COVID at a much higher rate than Democrats. This article goes on to say that this type of difference in COVID deaths is not seen in any other country.
Who's up next?
Chair, we have Julie Scarpool. Julie, please unmute yourself. You have, unmute yourself, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Julie Scarpool, Skarphol, and I am from Milwaukee, Oregon. I'm here today to talk about school quarantines. I've been trying to make sense of the quarantine protocol for schools, and my district keeps telling me that it's all set by the county, so I'm here today. I'm here to ask you to look into the school quarantine protocol, which seemingly has no data to back it up and is forcing hundreds of kids out of school for stretches of time. I'm not talking isolation, where kids have COVID and are supposed to be out of the general public. We're talking about quarantine, where a student has had close contact with a positive COVID case, and they're forced to stay out of school for a certain number of days. They're not COVID positive, but since they have been exposed, they are quarantined in hopes of keeping the community safe from further spread. Quarantining students is well-intentioned, but there are some major flaws to the model that Clackamas County has right now. First, most students who are quarantined do not receive any live instruction during quarantine. They are given worksheets and assignments or videos to watch on their computer. That's it. Secondly, the length of time students need to quarantine is very confusing. Some have had to quarantine for 10 days, some 14, some 24. Those are long stretches of missed school days and no contact with teachers, classmates, or any type of instruction. A lot of students being forced into quarantine are homeless, in abusive homes, in homes without food or electricity, or homes with parents fighting addiction and mental illness. Also, students are not allowed to test out of quarantine early. The county protocol for other circumstances does allow a person to return to work and life if they test negative after day 5. For some reason, the county is not allowing students this same freedom. If a student is quarantined, shows no signs, and has a negative test, the county still keeps them out of school. Some states like Kentucky, Utah, Massachusetts, and Georgia have implemented a test-to-stay model. Instead of quarantining students with a close contact, schools provide tests for students to take for 5 to 7 days. If the test is positive, they isolate. If it's negative, they go to school. This sounds simple and sensible. I asked my district about this, and they said the county is not allowing schools to implement this strategy. Our county also has no data to show if quarantining students is effective or necessary. I asked, and our school district does not keep track of how many quarantined students end up contracting COVID. New York and LA County have kept track of this. In New York, it was 0.5% of quarantined students. In LA County, it was 0.2%. Both LA and New York have modified their quarantine protocol to allow more kids to stay in school for more days. Our students and family have been through a lot when it comes to education during the pandemic. Please look into these policies we are making them live under. Is there data to back up imposing these policies? We need to implement policies that maximize, not jeopardize, in-person instruction. We have the tools available to keep kids in school while keeping the community safe. You need to make sure that those
Thank
are
you
being...
very much, Julie. Gary, I'm going to call on you to comment on some of the accusations and assumptions that she's made regarding Clackamas County's role in school, quarantine, vaccinations, et cetera.
Yes, Clackamas County, as our public health staff, we work with school districts on offering guidance related to quarantining regarding public health and COVID-19. We do not set requirements for school districts. The state of Oregon guides school districts, and school districts have their own school boards. So I'd love to hear what school district is telling this to the constituent, because we'll have to correct the misinformation that's being shared.
Does Julie Scarpool have a phone number that we could call back? Or, yeah, I don't know what is being told with that either. I know there's a lot of confusion over this whole COVID vax, quarantine our students, who's going to be vaccinated in schools. And I think it's every school district is making decisions for themselves based on what is happening.
Correct,
Lake Oswego
yes.
had to take an action earlier in the month regarding a situation there. Another school may be doing something else that's different, because I've been following it a little bit, but not a lot, since we do not have jurisdiction over any public school in our county. And I know it's really confusing for the folks, because we are the public health officials, but we don't have jurisdiction over the schools. We don't govern what the schools do. So maybe we can follow up with her and help out on that.
Yes.
Mary, is there anybody else online?
That was the end of the list, Chair.
That's the end of the line. Well, thank you very much. I will now close the public communication portion of this meeting, and we will move on. Gary, would you tee up the next item?
Yes, Chair Smith. Next is County Administrator Update. That's me. I'd like to share some good news of things that our county employees are doing out and about in the community. First, 2 weeks ago, the Malala community hosted Celebrate Malala, which included food trucks, live music, crafts, and other services. Our staff was there in honor of September being Suicide Prevention Month, which you heard about last week, Commissioners. Kathy Turner, our Suicide Prevention Coalition member, and she works in Health, Housing, and Human Services, was there, and she joined other county staff by helping talk about the suicide prevention efforts here in Clackamas County. The team spoke to 220 people at this event and gave out more than 150 gun locks and encouraged countless folks to talk about Ask the Question, which is to ask people how they're doing about their mental health. So thank you to Kathy and our staff who attended the Celebrate Malala event. Next, I want to share some amazing news. Our staff member at Clackamas Water Environment Services, plant operator Amy Willman, saved another employee's life. Another employee was having distress and passed out, and Amy immediately used the automated external defibrillator, AED, which is common in all of our county buildings, and provided first aid training on the spot to this employee. Amy saved this employee's life because they were going into cardiac distress at the county. So after Amy grabbed the AED, other employees, Devin Page, Chris Johnson, Scott Pezel, and Larry Holthusen also arrived on the scene, and all of them helped support this employee until the ambulances arrived. The employee's life was saved. They're fully recovered and doing well. But really want to thank Amy for noticing a fellow colleague was having trouble, and she jumped into action immediately. And Amy said, "I'm honored and humbled. It was a group effort. I'm so happy that the coworker is still here today. I couldn't imagine West without them." So this is just one example of the amazing employees that work at Clackamas County, not only to serve the public, but to serve and help each other. So thank you, Amy, Devin, Chris, Scott, and Larry for helping a fellow employee. That's my update, Commissioner.
Gary, my next thought on this, well, I'm so grateful to have our employees that do this, is she must have had training on how to use an AED. Because
Yes.
they're a little bit specialized, and she must have had first aid training, which, by the way, is something, a course I'm thinking that she took that went above and beyond her normal course of duties at Clackamas County, and she should be equally commended for that as well.
Yes.
Gary, is that all for you today?
That's all, yes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now we will move on for Commissioner Communication, and I have a list of order. Commissioner Schull, you're up first.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Clackamas County, and special thanks to Elvis Clark for coming in this morning to testify in person, and thank you to our 5 callers who took time to call in today. On public health, this morning, 4 Legacy Go Health urgent care units are going to close due to lack of temporary staffing. 2 of them are in Clackamas County, one at West Lynn and one at Lake Oswego. Our location at Oregon City for the Legacy Go Health Urgent Care will stay open. Healthcare workers are in short supply. None of them should have to choose between vaccination and their livelihoods. Now, you know that last week our resolution failed to be signed. So today I ask residents of the county to pick up the phone, send an email to the governor's office, and tell her that you want her to push back on any threats to our healthcare workers, public safety workers, or any of our workers for that matter, with the threat of termination for not being vaccinated. The next thing on public safety. According to the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, a fatal shooting happened on 27 September at 2 a.m. in Happy Valley. It happened when the suspect pulled a gun at a traffic stop. Drugs are often involved in these situations. The passage of Measure 110 might have kept some drug law offenders out of jail, but it is not making the job of our law enforcement personnel any easier. One of our officers was injured Monday morning. Give some thought to sending a note of appreciation to Deputies Jansen Bento, Sam Tharp, and Matt Roach of the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office for risking their lives to protect yours and mine. On employment, more than 94,000 unemployed Oregonians lost their weekly benefits this month, with multiple federal pandemic aid programs expiring at the same time. That's 80% of all the people who had been receiving assistance prior to Labor Day were cut off, according to the Oregon Employment Department. Most likely about 10% of that number is here in Clackamas County. The good news is that the number of job vacancies in our county is going up. If you need employment, contact one of our thousands of outstanding Clackamas County businesses and see what they need and how they can use your skills. On tolling and congestion pricing, as you know, the legislature passed House Bill 2017, which most likely, will bring tolling to I-5, I-205, Interstate 84, I-405, US 26, and Oregon 217. I keep getting comments from people that suggest they are not aware of potential tolling in Oregon. And so I ask people to get involved, visit the ODOT and the Metro websites, read up on their plans for tolling, and also look at other alternative sources of information like the Vehicle Transportation Alliance on Facebook. Get involved, get informed. I don't want people pulling up to a tolling station and wondering, oh, how did this come about? Please inform yourself and get involved. On the Willamette Falls, Tuesday, I had the pleasure of attending the Oregon City Business Alliance luncheon, where we were briefed by members of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde on their project to restore the east side of the river at the falls to a more pristine condition that might have existed before development of the area. So you can go to the website on that, read up on it, and give your support to the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and that great undertaking. On Jennings Lodge CPO meeting, Tuesday night, I had the pleasure of sitting in on their meeting, and that's a great community. They're very involved. It's an area of the county that is probably going to see growth, and so if you live up in that area and you're not involved with the Jennings Lodge CPO yet, get involved. On the Home Builders Association and Metro Middle Housing briefing, yesterday we had a great webinar on the House Bill 2001 and the middle housing options that it brings to our builders in our counties for building more affordable housing. It was very interesting, and again, I thank the Home Builders Association for a very interesting briefing. And on land use hearing, this coming Wednesday at 9:30, I want to make sure everybody is aware that there's going to be another land use hearing to discuss potential changes to ZDO 277 that would allow greater density and other changes to give us the option or the potential to build more housing, more affordable housing that our people can afford. And lastly, I want to say thanks to the people of Clackamas County, we made it through a fire season without any major fires in our county. Thank God for that. We're still not out of the woods like you heard earlier today. The Bull of the Woods fire is still burning, but continue to be careful. But thank you all for your fire safety this year. I appreciate it, and God bless Clackamas County.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Up next, Commissioner Schrader.
Yes, it's been a busy week this week. I started out my week at the Willamette Falls Communication Center, where I did another version of my Cooking with the Commissioner show. And what I normally do is I go to the farmers markets, I buy produce that is pretty much ripe and ready to go, and then I come up with a recipe. And this week, and it should be on the air sooner than later, I made a dish called caponata, and that is a Sicilian dish with eggplant. And sometimes people call me the eggplant queen because I know how to do more things with eggplant than most people, and I think eggplant is the most maligned vegetable there is. But I am telling you, with these Italian Sicilian recipes, they are very delicious. I've done eggplant parm, and this is a lovely dish that I had in Sicily a number of years ago, and I had the first chance to go there and found a little restaurant in a little place called Arice, which had Arab influence and Spanish influence and Italian influence. It's a delicious dish with eggplant and tomatoes and celery. It's kind of got a sweet and sour flavor to it, and you can use it for almost anything. You can eat it as a relish plain, as a dinner dish. You can use it as a side. You can actually, I put it in fish. And one of the things I did with the caponata I made was I found some fresh mussels at the farmer's market. You can also kind of saute the mussels and get those all beautifully done, and then put a little bit of the caponata in it, and it makes a beautiful, wonderful sauce. And the reason I do this is a couple of things. It's because it also gives me an opportunity to showcase people who are in our community. The last time I did this, we had a conversation with Christine Lewis, and this time I had a conversation with Mike Bondi. Okay, and Mike is the head of the Northwest, Experiment Station here, which anchors agriculture in our part of the valley. So Mike and I, he tasted the food. We had a great conversation. He brought produce from the experiment station, watermelon and grapes. In fact, I have some to bring up to all you folks. Eggplant. The reason I chose eggplant again, because it's in season. Okay. And we talked about what the role was of the experiment station in agriculture, how they help our small farmers, how they do research. I think the biggest thing he brought was fresh strawberries, because they have researched varieties that are now essentially year-round varieties. So take a look at this, and we talked about how important that is. And I think it fits in with one of our main priorities of making sure that agriculture in our community remains strong, and that they are a key element with their research from Oregon State that keeps it strong and keeps it going with the berry commissions and then every other kind of research they do. And this Friday, they are actually having their harvest dinner.
Oh, wow.
And I guess that Mike told me that they're going to have a pasta dish, which is very similar to what I made. This was kind of serendipity. We had no idea. Kind of what I made, the meal with him that day, that's actually kind of what they're going to serve at the harvest dinner. So colleagues, please come. Okay, I told him I'd bring some of mine and we could have a taste off and see how that works. So that was a fun, really fun start to my week with something that is very near and dear to my heart. I also went with Commissioner Shull was there with the Oregon City Business Alliance, and where they had a conversation about the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. John George, who is a dear friend, a member of the Grand Ron, did a great job describing what their vision is. And what's remarkable to me is they have healing as the center of that vision. And if you ask me, we can all use a little healing, you know, just across the board, everybody. Okay, with everything that we're doing and the kinds of stresses we're with and kinds of things we deal with. I think that the Grand Ron is a remarkable group of folks, and I'm really looking forward to their stewardship of the Legacy Project. And I know, Commissioner Shull, you agree with me on that. We are going to be having a C4 retreat, Commissioner Savas and I, this coming at the end of the week. I'm already getting talking points on there because we need to have some clarity with our mayors about how we're implementing and rolling out the wraparound services for the homeless people. And we're also going to outline for them the other people that are asking us money, the Save Kids Coalition, and how we're going to get those dollars and roll them out. One of the difficulties we're having is this. The Treasury Department is not the normal entity, federal entity that actually usually rolls out this money. Usually they take the money and give it to other agencies. But since they are the ones now rolling this out directly to counties, they have to figure out what the accountability measures are. And they kind of haven't quite done that yet because they've never done it before. So it puts us in a bad spot because we have to make sure as a county when we accept federal dollars that we're crossing every T and dotting every I so we don't get into trouble. So I'm asking people to be patient, our advocates and the folks working with the homeless folks to be patient with the rollout of the ARPA dollars because we are working as furiously and Gary is and the staff as quickly as we can to see if we can just get clarity so we can take those dollars and start using them and getting into the people, our business community, and also our more vulnerable citizens are in line for some of those dollars. I also had an opportunity to speak with John Southgate, and John is working with our economic development folks to kind of do an assessment of community and economic development. And he wanted my take on what that means for our county. So I gave him some past history of what we have done in the past and hopefully some help on what our community and business development needs to do now as we move into recovery periods from pandemics and all these things, what they need to do just to beef up their services to our local businesses and our community, not the least of which is business retention and expansion. That's a key element of what we do. I had a great conversation with him, and hopefully he'll take that information and bring us back some good recommendations. Also attended the District 8 meeting yesterday with our colleagues from the north and the west at Washington County and Multnomah County. And I know Commissioner Smith, Chair Smith, you were there as well. So I'm hopeful you can give an update. I had barking dogs in the background, so I was somewhat distracted upon occasion. And okay, that's about all I have. Our planning staff did brief us on the land use piece, as Commissioner Shull mentioned, and I guess we'll be hearing that on Wednesday. So that's the news from Lake Wobegon. All right.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Schrader.
All right.
Commissioner Savas, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. Earlier in this meeting today, one of the items on our consent agenda was an extension of an IGA with Metro for disbursements as a result from the revenues from 26-210 that the voters approved about a year ago. And in April, we were staff indicated to us that we were ideally going to have that master IGA, call it that, for lack of a better term, so I'm not mixing up the IGA we approved today, that interim IGA. But we were supposed to have that IGA completed before July 1st, and the reason was that we were to receive about $24 million of revenue on July 1st of this year, just 2 months ago. The Oversight Committee, I want to thank everyone on the Oversight Committee. Metro put together oversight for these public tax dollars to make sure that those dollars go where they need to go and that they're being spent responsibly. And I think that's, conceptually, that's a responsible thing to do. The unfortunate thing about all of this is, number one, the interpretation of our plan to implement those dollars is dependent upon the IGA. And, I was hopeful, as I learned here 3 weeks ago, that they were going to have a mediation between the counties and Metro to get this settled. That did occur. However, we're still not there yet. We still don't have the IGA. Hopefully that will be completed. That master IGA, if you want to call it that, will be completed here soon. So we can help interpret how our local implementation plan will be implemented and how the dollars will be spent. All to say, that's a great exercise. It needs to be done. It's very important. And I think getting clarity of how those dollars are to be spent or how to be spent is important. The unfortunate aspect that all the counties are dealing with is that the $24 million that Clackamas receive and the monies that Multnomah County and Washington County receive did not materialize. And the estimates are still in question. And I have spent a considerable amount of my time, as Commissioner Schrader has as well, assisted, and our staff. I want to thank our staff that are currently working on this and working in all aspects of this matter to ascertain perhaps what we might feel is the real forecast that we can experience between now and the end of this year and also the end of the fiscal year, which ends on June 30th of 2022. And why we doing all this, obviously, is, it should be the obvious, is that we have a huge homelessness problem in this region, and it's most visible in Multnomah County, the city of Portland. It's visible in Clackamas County, where I live, and other parts as well. And we're all working very hard to help the people out of homelessness and give them the critical services they need. It is an important role for government at this point in time. And unfortunately, along the way, a lot of either misunderstandings, whatever those motivations are, have created a lot. And, it's hard not to watch TV any longer and not realize that, we ought to be putting energies into helping the problem and helping the folks, and maybe not confuse or misinform as to what all jurisdictions are doing or perhaps what they're not doing. We're trying, as a matter of fact, not only just for sake of reference here, as I mentioned earlier, $24 million expected on July 1st. To this day, of the monthly disbursements in total, July, August, September, our total disbursements are just a shade over $400,000. That is a far cry from what we anticipated collecting. So I want to just guarantee and assure everyone out there that's keeping an eye on Clackamas County that we will spend that $400,000 very carefully and directly on supportive housing services, along with the dollars we got advanced, in essence, borrowing from Metro to help prime the pump to get these services out. And I know that our other neighboring counties are doing something quite similar as we ramp up services. We're doing everything we can, and we're, frankly, borrowing with uncertainty as to the amount of monies that will actually come in. So I want to, number one, thank my colleagues on the board for authorizing that. I want to thank our staff for helping the work that they're currently doing to, number one, correct the record, and hopefully message out to everyone what we are doing with the supportive housing services dollars we are correcting. What we are doing with the money we borrowed, and what we are doing and have been doing much prior to this supportive housing services money coming in, what we have been doing and still are doing in our H3S department, Health and Human Services, to address those needs and those human needs. It's not just this money, and it's not just the borrowed money that we currently spend to address homelessness as best we can with the resources we have. So I want to thank everyone, and I look forward to somehow, when we get all this sorted out, messaging all the things that we deliver in services for those in need. And that's what I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Schrader talked about the District 8 meeting yesterday. All 5 of us were in attendance. What District 8 means is from the Association of Oregon Counties. Our county is District 8, along with Multnomah County and Washington County. Commissioner Fisher is the chair, and the co-chair is Pam Treese from Washington County. And we had quite a program of education on moving forward on Measure 110, for instance, and how to deal with drug addiction, mental health, mental illness, and possibly there was a discussion on taking a regional approach to combine our very precious dollars to deal with the huge addiction problem in our area. Nothing was codified. It was just a discussion. It was very good. At the beginning of the meeting, the chairs from each county told about how COVID had changed their operations in doing business, and I found that to be really fascinating. I'll just reiterate, here at Clackamas County, one of the implementations is that we're doing now permitting for home building, all types of building online. And they can pay online, they can submit their plans, they get their building permit, their plumbing permits, their wiring, electrical, everything online, and it's active, offered 24/7, so you can always see where you're at in the process. Likewise, our inspectors are operating out in the community more easily. They don't come into the office a lot of time because they too get their information electronically online through their laptops that they take home with them. I believe that we approved 22,000 permits just last year in 2020. We don't know what the count is for this year yet. We usually take about 350,000 calls or inquiries about building in Clackamas County. This year we took 600,000 in 2020. So it's quite a robust program. I believe that is going to be permanent in nature. And then to come up next year, we're going to be having more approvals online that people can do, because normally you would pack all your papers in, you'd make an appointment at the county, you'd pack out just a ream of papers come in, give it, across the counter, give it to somebody for approval, and it goes through all this process. Now everything is online, and I'm hoping that it continues to be as successful. What I want to talk about today is I want to remind all the residents how important self-care is. Clackamas County has a lot of wonderful opportunities for our nature areas. We have trails and parks that are free to go to. We have lakes, rivers, and streams. We have mountains. We have trees starting to turn color, and it would really be incumbent on all of us to take our time to go out and ground ourselves in nature. That's what keeps me going. With all of the demands of everyday life and your job and your family, everything is changing. It seems like nothing is normal anymore. I like to take the time to read. I meditate, I listen to music, and generally try to unplug from all the craziness of the world. This last weekend, I took a deep dive into my house. I did some deep cleaning, and that gave me a feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment. And I was able to stand back and go, oh, wow, this is really kind of cool. It's not something I do all the time, mind you, but I was able to do that. So if we can find some of the little things in life that gives us satisfaction and joy, I suggest we all go out and do that this weekend. I see no further business before Gary.
Sorry, Chair Smith. Commissioner Fisher has joined via Zoom and has requested the opportunity to speak.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I deeply appreciate your sharing about District 8 meeting. It is one of the few opportunities we have as a region for all of the commissioners to gather and share what is on their mind. And you're right, it was very innovative hearing all of the, what I call COVID keepers, of sort of the bright silver linings through this challenging times, of things that we can learn, that we have learned and that we will carry forward. I was able to listen to part of the public testimony and all of the commissioner comments. I represented Clackamas County today at Greater Portland, Inc. It was a pretty remarkable event, I must say, with business leaders and public officials from around the region convening in person in an event that was vaccinated, verified, but also held virtually for those that were not able to attend in person. So it was nice to be there. I learned a lot about a new business that's come to our region called, I think it's Twisted Bioscience. And when they gave the overview of this business, it was way over my head in regards to the science, the technology, the combining of the two, and all of the incredibly groundbreaking scientific innovations that they're working on right here in our own backyard. Also, there was a lot of talk about Amazon coming to Canby, which was a real celebration. The chair of the, the executive director gave a wonderful presentation about where jobs are needed across our different jurisdictions in the country, and our area is really lacking in job development. So it was actually, most of the jobs that are coming to our region are coming from the Amazon business that is coming to Canby. 500 jobs, good jobs, will be available. So our eye is on the prize of how do we continue to attract businesses that have family wage, support sustainable wages, while also making sure that we have the workforce necessary to keep those jobs. I had the wonderful opportunity of sitting with the owner of the Stone Cliff restaurant in, which we all know, right there in Clackamas County. It's a wonderful restaurant overlooking the Clackamas River. He told me a story of how he had to go out to get the food from the warehouse in Wilsonville because there were not drivers and people to put the food into the trucks. And he had to hitch up his trailer and get out there and get the food and hurry back so that it wouldn't thaw. And you know what? It's because they don't have workforce for good jobs. It was either $26 or $28 an hour. People are not applying for those jobs. And I'm really hoping that now that we're transitioning out of the unemployment benefits for so many folks, that these people will be taking these jobs that are so necessary to keep our economy moving effectively. I did want to report on Tuesday, we did not have our regularly scheduled issue session. I had 2 items that I wanted to share. The first was about what happened at the Metro Oversight Committee, of which I am the ex officio member. And I do want to piggyback up on what Commissioner Schrader said and Commissioner Savas. I really felt out of that meeting that there is a recognition and acknowledgement that taking a little bit of a breath to let us get our feet under us here in Clackamas County to figure out how we're going to maneuver through this. There's definitely a will of everyone to do that, while also recognizing that there are 2 key elements to our plan that we need to roll out as soon as possible. And that is the area that is really the outreach, the navigation, the case management, the support services for those that are currently unsheltered in our community. So where we have been able to make investments are for the individuals that were housed during the COVID crisis with FEMA dollars, and also with the generous grant from Kaiser for the what's called Metro 300 for people who are older and have disabilities. That is amazing. And I really hope, I and I had the wonderful opportunity of hearing directly from our staff about what we are doing, the providers that are going to be awarded these grants, the wonderful work they're going to be doing to connect those people with really stable housing. I mean, it's incredible. And we've got to share the stories of what is happening because we are doing great work in Clackamas County. And I really am confident that we will continue to do that. But I wanted to share that. And then the other piece, oh, and just on a little aside, I attended the Clackamas Service Center Gala last evening. I think Commissioner Schrader was there with me as well, but it's so strange because it's virtual, so we don't see one another. But it was incredibly inspiring and such a gift to all of our community to have Clackamas Service Center here with us. Lastly, what I was going to bring up on Tuesday, it was on our issue session. I had let my commissioners know that I was interested in bringing this forward, and I know that Commissioner Savas expressed some interest. I would like us to schedule a retreat. I have talked with Gary Schmidt, who has a plan to work with Nancy Bush on getting us together so that we can hone our focus and really move forward on the areas where we all are committed as a commission on behalf of our constituents to move us forward in an effective way. We had an excellent retreat in January. It's time for us to have another one, and I'm hoping that another commissioner will join me. It takes two of us to get this work going, and I really hope another commissioner will join me in directing our county administrator to work with Nancy Bush putting that together.
Have you finished, Commissioner Fisher?
Yes, I'm hoping another commissioner will join me since we did not have that opportunity at issues to talk about it.
Seeing no other business before the commission, this meeting is adjourned.